Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. We have a friend of the pod on today, Alex Lieberman. He's the co-founder of Morning Brew and Story Arb and is one of the best creators and marketers we know. Alex is on, he's going to talk drop marketing, how he's hoping to be the Lenny Rajitsky for marketing, how you can steal some of the best ideas out there and bring them to your own marketing and bring them online to get an unfair advantage. That and so much more all on today's show.
Alex, you're a really successful founder. You've sold Morning Brew. You can do all kinds of different things, but you're choosing to be the Lenny for marketers. You want to be an incredible creator for marketers. Like, talk us through why you want to do that, why that's the thing you've picked to spend your time and resources on.
First of all, and this may go down a different direction you guys don't want to, but I'll just give you a teaser, which is like after I stepped out of the CEO role at the Brew, the next year of my life was like the most lost I've ever been in my life. And by the way, this is a very classic thing. I've talked to dozens
very common story,
yeah. Yeah, it's the same story. So I did this exercise that the Conscious Leadership Group has. And Conscious Leadership Group, it's like amazing leadership education. They have a book called 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. It's probably my favorite business book I've ever read. They have this thing called the good stuff exercise. And basically what the good stuff exercise is you have to write down 8 very specific moments from your life or career where you felt like you were skillful and where everything felt like easy and enjoyable. And then you basically write down these 8 moments and then you start finding themes in them. And then those themes boil down into one statement of what your zone of genius is. And basically my zone of genius, like, boiled down to leveraging creativity and outside the box thinking to storytell and persuade individuals. Like that is kind of my statement. And so then I basically asked myself, how can I spend as much of my time getting better at that? How can I just get exceptionally good at that? And at the same time, you know, there's 2 ways I see my career going, and I'd be happy with either. One is right now, I don't want to run a business like I did for the Brew in the immediate future for the next 10 years. It was an absolute slog. As you guys know, like my goal is
it's a grind.
And my goal is to start a family in the next few years. My personal, like my professional goals, like I want to be a great entrepreneur. I want to be an even better family person. And I want to prove that both are possible. Yeah. And so to me, like what I'm doing over the next few years is I'm just building a portfolio of companies that I hire a CEO for day one. I help incubate the business. And I basically think about what are the things I can do to increase the probability of success of every one of these businesses that I incubate, which we'll come back to why I'm even thinking about being the Lenny of marketing, why I'm creating content around this. The second possible path long-term is every entrepreneur does fantasize about taking a massive swing in their career.
Yep.
And I too have fantasized about taking a massive swing in my career. When I think, first of all, I've settled with the fact that if I don't, I will still be happy. It will be okay. But if I do find that massive swing I want to take, I think about what are the tools that I want to have to make this thing potentially as successful as possible. And what I likely will do in that next business I find is have a co-founder who either is technical or a lot like Austin, who is like deeply operational. Mm-hmm. And so then it makes me think about what do I need to bring to the table? And again, I think sales and marketing is going to be a big piece of it.
First of all, I think most normal people would have thought creating a company and selling it like Morning Brew is a pretty great swing, pretty good swing. I know that your expectations as humans, we like, oh, well, that was quite small. I want to get even bigger. But
yeah, it's the issue with us.
Yeah, like that's
it's
humans level set to wherever they are, and they're like, I'm only here. That person's over there. Like, but it's a pretty big swing or a pretty successful swing. This is actually a really good topic because Kipp and I talked about this a lot, which is like this kind of new category of creator-led founders, right? And you see it all the time in B2C. We've seen the Kim Kardashian, we've seen all of the kind of creators in there really usurp brands because marketing channels are set up today to reward personalities and to reward individuals, not brands, right? The channels that are growing are all the kind of personality-led channels. The ones that are actually declining are the performance marketing that usually brands are much better at because they have budget, they have the resources. And so could you speak a little bit to that, right? Because we've said that we see that come into business, and that's kind of what you're talking about, right? Is that I can create all of these business because I'm a creator and I have an audience that I can actually point in these different directions.
I mean, I just think about this all the time. It's like no matter what industry you think about, it's like the holders of distribution are the one of quality and trusted distribution are the ones that have all the leverage. So you think about that, like in media, obviously a creator who has a deeply engaged business audience has a shit ton of leverage. But then I take it to a totally different industry, which is like, you look at like Target or Walmart, it's like every D2C brand who wants to get into retail will bend over backwards, do anything possible to get access to their trusted distribution as well. It's like there's just this immense power of distribution. I think basically what you're describing is like the tailwinds. There's both tailwinds for creators and headwinds for marketing. Mm-hmm. The headwinds for marketing are that paid acquisition is getting less efficient, partially driven by, like the post-cookie world that we live in. There's also just more competition, like as big brands are allocating from traditional channels to digital, like simply the demand supply imbalance is going to shift. At the same time, influence has been around forever. Like an amazing book I'm reading right now is Michael Ovitz.
Oh, he's a fascinating character.
Yeah, he's out of his goddamn mind, but
he's crazy.
But this book is incredible, partially because a business I've thought a lot about building is what would a modern day Endeavor or CAA look like? Like if you had to build like a talent business or what Endeavor now is not even a talent business, it's like an entertainment holdco. What would that look like if you were to start it today? But like influence has existed forever, like, and for a while it was athletes and celebrities in LA. The tailwind that exists is just now tools have democratized the ability for more people to create. And so what I actually think is like distribution, it's this weird thing where like social platforms centralize distribution, but there's this weird thing happening where actually I'd argue like a weird dynamic is happening where distribution is actually becoming more fragmented than ever before because the long tail of building audience is just getting longer and longer and longer every single day. And that's why I think like even a big challenge that I've talked to a lot of marketers about is as they try to pull back paid, as they try to find efficient channels, one of those being like influencer. And I know a ton of brands are starting to pour more money into like direct buys on YouTube. A big challenge they have is like, hey, I want to spend $500,000 a month on a very specific demographic of creator on the internet. I don't know how to spend $500,000 a month on it. How do I find all these people? And how do I know if they're good? Mm-hmm. And how do I know if they drive engagement? And so I think that is what has partially driven the emergence of creator co-founded brands. I think the other thing is creator driven, which is being a creator is a fucking slog. Like we just talked about, like
so hard.
Lenny's done it for 6 years. Mr. Beast has done it for 14 years. Marquez Brownlee, his first video when he was 11 playing golf on a golf course. Like it's a slog and there's no way to get off the slog if you're just making money from brand deals. And so I just think there's also more desire than ever before from creators to build equity in something so that they have a possibility of retiring from content at some point in the next 20 years. Now, what I will say is as that has happened, you've had some really good creator-led businesses created, and you've had some really horrible ones created, which is just what happens anytime anytime a market gets commercialized. You've seen it the same thing in the newsletter space as you've seen Beehive get big, Substack, ConvertKit. It's the same thing. It's no different from any other market where money is to be made.
Last night, I did a show because Kieran, you were asleep and in bed, but with the Wix CMO, Omer, and he's easily one of the best CMOs in technology. And I asked him what's been the single biggest change in his marketing mix over the last 12 to 24 months. He said influencers. He's like, man, I've done Super Bowl ads. I've done all of these things. We are all on influencers. It's all indirect, measurement. It's fascinating. And he is somebody who's at the pulse and is better at finding arbitrage than most people. So it's like a really good, strong signal point.
Yeah. And it's also just crazy is how much inefficiency there still is in the space, not just in terms of finding influencers, but I was talking to the person who ran influencer marketing at Klarna last week. And still in the space, if say you're especially a consumer business who a lot of your influencer marketing is focused on Instagram, which still Instagram is the largest platform for influencer marketing. Do you know how they like do analytics and reporting for Instagram influencers? Every influencer that works with them, has to send a screenshot of their analytics,
yes.
of their impressions, and then someone on the back end has to create a spreadsheet of it. Like the fact that that's how the influencer marketing economy was 24 billion last year. I think Instagram was 20 something % of it. Like that's how this marketplace operates. So imagine when it does get more efficient, what things can look like. It's pretty interesting.
Hey everyone, quick stat for you. AI usage has increased 53% since last year. And you know how I know that? Because I just read our brand new 2024 AI Trends in Marketing report. This report is packed with original data. That data not only highlights the latest in AI trends, but also shows how businesses today are using AI to grow their business. You'll learn the top 5 AI tools for marketers, exactly how teams are investing in AI and where they're seeing the return on their investment. And you get a data-backed answer to the big question, is AI helping or hurting my marketing career? I invite you to steal and take all of our hours of research for free. Grab your copy from the link in the description below. Now back to today's show.
Yeah, it's still pretty nice. I'm trying my best. I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna pass it to you, Kipp. I'm trying my best not to talk my book here and insert my latest seed investment.
I was going. Hold on. I was going to let you get there. I was going to let you get in. I was going to let you get to the influencer marketplace.
Shout out to Passion Fruit. I have to shout out the guys Passion Fruit. I did a Q&A for them before. Great company, good investment. So you perfectly set it up. So I have to mention them. So carry on.
At some point, I actually do want to know what Passion Fruit is, but what I will say is, in the B2B space, so I think there's an interesting question, which is like creator businesses or creator marketing. First of all, it always does feel generally in B2B, like B2B is late to things. And I'm curious of why that I have that feeling or like there is that reputation. Is it a fact or is it
It's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact.
And okay, so one, I'm curious, like, why is that a fact? Like, are B2B marketers on average less creative and innovative marketers than B2C, or is it just because you have to worry about like performance way more significantly because it's all about demand gen, whatever it is, like I'm interested in that. But what's interesting is I think the initial creator deals were in the alcohol space and you saw some huge wins, right? You saw Terramana tequila, you saw Proper Irish whiskey, you saw Aviation gin. And I think a lot of people saw this and they were like, oh, this is easy. You just attach a big name and you freaking crush it. I think then what you saw was some other celebrities launched alcohol brands and they didn't do nearly as well. And I think there's a big reason for it is like the best quality creator was skimmed first. And then like there's a huge drop off from there in terms of engagement, interest in the creator, et cetera. The other thing is the alcohol market is like the exception, not the rule. It is the definition of a commoditized product that has repeat purchases for literally decades on end. So it truly all that matters is brand and marketing. As you start working into other products, so the next stage was like consumer, where it was like apparel and other consumer beauty, product differentiation actually starts to matter a little bit more. And I think what you saw was a lot of creators joining up with operators. And on both ends, they were like, let's just buy the same exact product from the manufacturer in China. Let's slap our marketing and our brand and your marketing on it, and it will work. And I think that just didn't prove to be the case. No. And so I think, unfortunately, building a creator business that can long-term be a great business is a business where the creator is the best first marketing channel. And then like, if hypothetically they disappear 2 years in the future, you have to have confidence that the product is good enough to stand on its own 2 feet. And you have a robust marketing program outside of the creator. The best analogy that I think of is like Kevin Espiritu, who started Epic Gardening, which again shows the value of niches on the internet. The guy has 3 million subscribers on YouTube around gardening. The way he always referred to it is if you look at like a rocket that shot up from Cape Canaveral, it has the boosters on the side. The boosters fall off when they get to the outer atmosphere of Earth. That is how a creator should operate as part of a business.
Okay, I agree with that. I have a crazy idea I want to pitch to you guys because Alex, you said a couple minutes ago, you were like, well, you know, if I do take a big swing, I want to figure out what skills I'd want to bring, and I'd want to be make sure I had a technical co-founder or operator. What if that was all wrong? What if that we're entering an era where like I could see a world where it's like we just put the dream team together. Get like 10 amazing marketers, and that's the founding team. And you just like imagine like we did like a YouTube series where we pick some defunct brand, and we just had 10 of us who were really great at marketing. We each put in $100,000, and you're like, cool, we're gonna turn this into $1 billion brand. Seems really possible today. It seems more possible today that if you could spike on one thing, and we're using marketing in this example, but you could say the same thing for R&D or anything. But it's like, it seems like balance is less of a quest than it should be here, is I think the point I'm trying to make, which is like, you could see like just tripling, quadrupling down on one aspect of business, in this case, marketing, to really go. And like every day I find like a defunct brand or a brand that's clearly like not doing great. And I'm like, I just would like, should I just text my friends and we all just buy this and just like make it $100 million business? Because it's like, feels like that is more possible than it's ever been before.
And out of curiosity, why do you think that's like more possible today than it was, say, even like 5 or 10 years ago?
Because the subscription economy has made all the bullshit work easy. All the admin, finance, payroll, HR, all the stuff where you're like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to work with a bunch of people who have to do this, where it's like, oh, actually, we need a lot less people and time to do those things that we don't want to do. And so now you can say, all right, well, here's a good product. We can automate the aspects of this business we don't like, and we can actually focus on the part we like, which is like building a brand and building an audience and kind of taking it to market in a really effective way.
You know who's doing your business, Kipp? And so you basically share the same ideas as Ty Lopez.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew
he's literally buying distressed brands.
Yeah.
And he is an influencer. He's a marketer. Whatever you think about him, he knows how to draw attention, but he's literally running that play.
I think that it is 100% a huge opportunity. I think in that example, the reason you don't need like a CTO or some sort of technical founder is the product is already established. Like, you have an established product, you have a product that exists, there's something valuable to the asset. You attach a bunch of marketers. By the way, the idea I wanted to do this with probably a year and a half ago, and I couldn't buy the asset, was backyard baseball. I thought backyard baseball. So I grew up with that game, and it was my favorite game. And people love Pablo Sanchez. They love Pete Wheeler. And the game basically disappeared. Like, it hasn't existed on any gaming console in the last 15 years. Someone I know recently bought the brand, and they're trying to bring it back. But like, to me, that's a perfect example. If you have really smart marketing attached to that, you could build an amazing franchise and rejuvenate backyard baseball.
That's where do you, is there like a marketplace? Like, where do you find them?
So for backyard baseball, I literally just had the idea. I tweeted it out, and then the person who bought the rights to it, which I think they bought the rights for like $15,000, hit me up. They hit me up on Twitter, and they're like, do you want to talk about this? We're going to do this. So the short answer is like, I just think of brands I grew up with, then I get curious about them. But obviously that's just what's in my head. So I think what's a more scalable version of that? Like, how do you figure out, like,
this is the business somebody should start, by the way. A marketplace for old IP, so that you can discover and rebuy old IP or businesses that have recently shut down or are winding down to like revive. Like, there's a seltzer company in Vermont called SAP Seltzer, which is just literally takes maple water out of trees and cans it and carbonates it, and it's delicious. And it's just like, it's going out of business. And I'm just like, maybe we should just buy a seltzer company and make it awesome.
Totally. Yeah, I do think what's actually interesting is I actually think potentially like private equity companies, like mid-market private equity companies, may actually be the best sourcers of these brands because they're looking for deals like this. And so actually like partnering with one of them with like the marketing Avengers squad is potentially the
I think that is a path forward.
The path of least resistance.
I think you're probably right.
Coming back to how you think about content, Alex, because I think it would be useful for our listeners. When you think about like, how I want to be the person who like is the Lenny from marketing, or just like an incredible marketing creator, there is like lots of parts of marketing. Like, there's B2C, there's B2B, there's like small companies, large companies. Do you think about any kind of niche within marketing? Or like, how do you think about owning that as a topic? Or maybe actually, do you think it's better if you niche down and own a subset of it?
So I don't think about a niche in terms of a category. I think about a person. I'm going to do this for a second, and hopefully I hope it doesn't screw up your recording. I don't think it will. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Look who it is. It's Kipp.
That-
So basically the way that I think about really like building personal brand or becoming a known individual on the internet is you have to have a market of one. And so Kipp literally is my market of one as I create content moving forward. And so what I basically think about is what does Kipp want to consume on the internet to make himself look as good as humanly possible in front of other individuals in life and grow as much as humanly possible as a marketer. And the way, again, I have access to Kipp, so I could just basically ask him, what are the things that you're thinking most about, that you have questions around? What are the biggest challenges you're dealing with within HubSpot's marketing org right now? Not all people would have that. And so what I would say is, if you picked a market of one, which your market of one should literally be a real person that you have their LinkedIn URL pulled up, is you should basically go either find things they've talked about on the internet or go to subreddits and look at what are the biggest questions that these people have asked. But basically the way that I've thought about my market of one is I say, okay, Kipp is the CMO at HubSpot. He has a really large organization, but what I know is important to him is trying creative, new, and interesting shit and keeping his ear to the ground of what's relevant in marketing, not just today, but what will be 5 years from now, so he can go to where the puck is going versus just do what everyone else is doing. And so then as I think about it, I think about what are the topics that I can talk about that allow Kipp to know where the puck is going, so he doesn't have to do all of the search for himself.
Can I ask one quick question? First of all, I love this for two reasons. I love that you are starting with a person. I think if you were listening to this podcast and you were doing any form of marketing, take this lesson away and you've got your hours worth of advice in this one thing. Like, that is an incredible piece of advice. The second thing is just on this, what's interesting to me, I like how you think about this. The second thing is I love talking about Kipp like he's not here, so this is really cool.
Oh, it's amazing.
So like,
Thanks guys, appreciate you.
I would say Kipp in the marketing industry would have very niche needs. As in, like, there's not many people running the size of marketing team or thinking about the complexity of problems that maybe a Kipp is. So do you think about, that's why I was kind of asking, like, do you think solving for Kipp solves for a broad enough market, or are you trying to like specifically solve for CMOs, like core leaders of marketing teams?
Yeah, so my view is the reason I actually like using Kipp as the market of one is I've thought a lot about this. I think if I was to write about any, like, your run-of-the-mill Fortune 500 CMO, I think you wouldn't necessarily get tactical enough. Like, I think it would be too high level. For me, what
it'd be people management.
Exactly. To me, what I think is cool is, like, I think obviously that is important for Kipp's job, but I think but I also think from hearing you guys talk in the podcast, you guys are thinking about like deeply tactical stuff as well. Like, again, when I posted about this crazy stunt of going to the National Football Championship, like, Kipp DM'd me instantly after that. Like, when I posted another idea recently on Twitter, Kipp DM'd me instantly. Like, he's DMing me faster.
Kipp's just hanging out when Alex comes up with new marketing ideas.
Like, outsourcing my strategy, baby.
Kipp's whole job is Alex just coming up with ideas, and he goes to the Amazon CEO and goes, look what I'm doing.
No, but honestly, like he's hopping on interesting ideas and trends faster than like a head of growth at a startup. And to me, that's why I picked him. So I'll just even use an example. Today, I wrote like a playbook for how Beehive does really smart drop marketing. Like, I think they are a way that they've built up so much zeitgeist around their brand, and I can kind of go into it if you want, is like they have for the last 3 years done a product drop every 2 weeks. And then they've done a very specific blitz plan around that product drop every 2 weeks. My view is like, is Kipp thinking about that exact thing today? No. But I do think that could get his wheels turning about how do you implement a similar process with HubSpot, which is also dropping product features constantly.
Yeah, you are thinking about it in the right way, because I literally am thinking exactly about this topic today. The kind of drop marketing, how you blitz a certain demographic and segment of your audience for a certain specific sprint, and then
to me, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer because go ahead.
Can you teach me about it then? Because that's much easier. I was going to start clodding my way through it today. So if you don't mind.
Yes.
While you're here, just go ahead and give us the 5-minute summary, please.
So I'm going to tell you how, like Beehive did it, but I'm also going to abstract it to like, what is the process that they do? And I'll even share like how I'm doing it at StoryArb with our business. So just as a random example, Beehive recently dropped audio newsletters, right? That was their most recent drop, that you could listen to your newsletter. You could just embed an audio version in your newsletter. And so basically, here's how I think about the drop marketing process, which, by the way, going back to like how B2B just lags, the hilarious thing is like drop marketing literally started. It's been around forever. Literally, like music drops have been around forever. It started with fashion and streetwear in Japan. Supreme, like this is not new. But so what I know is like Tyler started doing this because Beehive did not have a lot of features in the early days. And so a lot of people wouldn't sign up for their product because they're like, you don't have 80% of the features we need. And so his only way of building confidence that they would have the feature soon is show that they're delivering unbelievable product velocity. So people are like, oh, wow, maybe Beehive will have this feature in the next 3 months. So to me, the first step is like you define your product roadmap. I know at Beehive, it's 90 days in advance, which means every 2 weeks for the next 3 months, they know exactly what product feature they are going to be introducing to their audience. Then basically the second step that I know they go through is you prep the team internally. So basically everyone who needs to be trained on how to deliver the product and a great customer experience in that product is trained before the external launch. Then you move to step 3. And to me, this is like the meat and potatoes of it, which is like you have to establish your drop calendar. And there are a few things that go into it. One is you pick your channels. So, and the idea is you pick channels that every 2 weeks or every month or every quarter, you're kind of hand picking from this menu of channels that makes sense for your business. So for Beehive, it's always been their company social on Twitter and LinkedIn, CEO social on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I joke on Instagram for Tyler because that's where he posts thirst traps in addition to Beehive to Beehive product drops. Company newsletter. He has his own personal newsletter. Employees post on social. Their customers post on social. Company blog. For every product announcement they do, which to me, every company should do this, they drop it on Product Hunt. So every new product, they do a Product Hunt launch for it. And they have an own digital community where Beehive customers are. So you pick your channels for your company. The second is you pick your creative. So they know every time they're doing it, there's an animated short they're making, social copy, blog copy, newsletter copy, Product Hunt copy. Third, you pick your dates, and they usually do day before they say something like something big is coming soon. The day of is the big drop. Day after is amplification by employees and customers. And then like a week later is a reminder. And so just for context, when they did this audio newsletter drop on August 1st, it got 283,000 free impressions from just all of the different posts. They had their biggest revenue day in the last 30 days. And to me, every company should be doing exactly this. And by the way, like functionally how it works, like I think their employees and their customers being evangelists is like really like the amazing card that they pull. Because for example, when Beehive posted about the audio newsletter drop on August 1st, 18 employees all reposted or quote reposted it. And so like for that day, everyone knew about this. If you were somewhere in and around the email marketing world, we're doing this at StoryArb also, where at StoryArb, so just for people who don't know, like basically what StoryArb is it's your out of house head of content or head of content marketing. My view is content only gets more important for B2B companies. They generally don't know how to do it well, or it feels incredibly dry or robotic, like super SEO'd. But like, as you guys know, with the HubSpot Media Network, like just great content period is what you want to create, and it will naturally act as marketing. For us, we offer a lot of different types of content: email newsletters, email marketing, website copy, company social, founder social. We basically planned out for the next 12 months. Every month, we're doing a drop of a different type of content. On the day we drop it, we actually throw a virtual event. It's called Comic-Con. The vision is content meets Coachella. So it's like the best content festival in the world. And the idea behind it is I get the best speakers to talk about the type of content we're dropping, which the funny thing is we're not really dropping anything. We already offer all of these things. We're just making it known to the world. Yeah, we're just packaging it. We do these virtual events where I interview. So like Brinna from HubSpot is, I'm interviewing her for the next one, which is on company social. Last one, we had 1,500 people attend the last Comic-Con. Say 1,500 people join. 1,500 people who clearly give a shit about company social, which means they're great leads for StoryArb. I'm also selling sponsorships against it now. So I actually want to get paid to be able to do drop marketing for our business. And then we also take all of the interviews from the event and we turn it into everything from an email newsletter to playbooks to social copy for the next month. So my view is like, we've just kind of manufactured drop marketing by putting some sort of structure around the menu of items we offer at our company.
It's kind of like using your traditional product marketing, but as a much bigger kind of distribution, content merchandising strategy.
Yeah, my whole thing is like, if you're going to create products, why not like squeeze as much juice as humanly possible out of them?
Yeah. I always wonder, like, one of the things around product marketing, I wonder if you should really just have a problem marketing team, because for the most part, what people really care about are the problems the products solve, and that you can just have a steady stream of like, here's like the core problem, and here's how we solve it, and here's the products that actually solve that problem, and just keep hitting the market with that, because that's what really resonates with people is like, oh, I used to have this problem, wow, you solved that problem, and just hit them over the head with that. Because I think a lot of product marketing gets lost because like, here's another product, but it's totally. Like, what are you actually solving? What is the problem how do you make my life better? And that's the thing that really clicks with people.
I totally agree. By the way, one like semi aside, but I think you guys will find interesting is like, I think you guys know and appreciate the importance of founder and executive social, right? Like Lulu from Rostra, like this is like her whole thesis with the business, and just going direct to audience matters more than ever before. I think like what Zuck has done with his brand and his team has done with his brand is like the most absurd. It's the most absurd.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. I will say StoryArb started just on founder and exec social. And the reason we pivoted to helping companies with their content marketing is honestly because it was too low retention of a product, because founders do not stick with their content long enough. Like there's so much FOMO around it. Like they see founders doing it or execs see execs doing it. So they're like, help me with it. The first thing I always say to them is, this is a long game. I've been creating content on LinkedIn and Twitter for the last 8 years. You shouldn't expect any really meaningful ROI for a few years. They say, I totally got it. I'm on the same page. five months in, something becomes a priority in their business, which means they can't spend the time with us interviewing them to get insights out of their head to turn into content, which means we don't have content to work with, and they churn. And so I think there's just this interesting thing where founders and execs understand the value of creating social, but I think 95% are never going to actually do it. And it's kind of sad to me, because going back to what we were saying, like I think some of the smartest, most insightful executives in the world aren't creating on social because they're too busy working in their business, which makes sense to me. But I wish there was a mechanism to pull those things out of their head so the world could learn from them.
If you are a founder and you do have incredible expertise and knowledge, like your advice is to have it's one of your services, right? Like, is that the way for them to get there, is like just talk to someone and who's really great at content, and they can actually repurpose this into those different platforms? Like that's the way they can get scale. Yeah.
I mean, my view is like, say you have like day one, you have nothing in your business. Like you're literally at zero. You don't have a marketing person. You want your initial customers. Do I think you're going to get your initial customers from putting content on social? No, I don't, because it's going to take time to build up that audience and nurture it. I think the way you're going to do it is like, if you read the Lenny article about how did like the first, how did the biggest consumer apps get their first like 10 to 100 customers? It was all of like leveraging their immediate network. So that's like always what I think it's going to be for your initial customers. But I do think if you want something after you've exhausted your immediate network, the next network you go to is your digital network. And in order to get access to that, once your immediate network has slowed down, you do need to start creating content pretty quickly. And honestly, I find that there's like an order of excuses that founders and execs make for not creating content online. The first is they don't want to be cringy. And part of my answer is like, just don't create cringy content then.
That's true.
The second is that they don't have any content ideas. I actually think this is the biggest unlock for people building personal brand, is I think when you have a naturally content-oriented mind, your brain is off autopilot and you're always identifying things in your day-to-day life that is an interesting idea to talk about. I just think for most founders and execs, the light switch hasn't been turned on. And so they're not scanning and they don't have awareness. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like actually getting awareness. And if I was to tell you, I bet there are at least 10 things that happen in your day that are at least interesting enough ideas to create content around, then you start looking for what those things may be. So I think that's the biggest unlock for a founder or exec. And then the third thing is, especially if they're not creating it themselves, like if they're partnering with a story arb or any sort of agency to help them, I think they worry about voice. Like the person who is writing on their behalf does not have their exact same voice. And what I've always said is like, unless you are creating your own content on social, which again, odds are you're not going to for a long time because 95% of founders have shown they're not capable of doing it, then your voice will be slightly different on the internet. My point of view is that if you could get someone who has 80% the voice you want, but you can guarantee you're going to be putting content out 3 days a week for the next 4 years, I think it's a worthy trade-off, but some founders can't get past that point.
Look, founders are control freaks. And I've always been the mind of like, when you run marketing at a team, like the people are often like writing blog posts or covers for ebooks or different things for you. And I'm always like, yeah, that looks great. Why am I going to spend like an hour editing this thing where it's like, totally. No, the opportunity is in the distribution of like, are the ideas generally right? Great. That's all that matters. And it's really hard for somebody who has real control issues to let go in that way and 100%. Kind of be okay with that. But you are actually telling them the truth that the thing that matters much more than control, unless you're like Apple, or unless you are like so perfectly controlled, everything is literally pixel perfect, control makes no sense, right? Then exactly. You want distribution, you want the air cover that's provided by high frequency.
And also, to be honest with you, it is impossible for if you're posting with some level of regularity, it is impossible for you to post all A+ ideas. At the end of the day, maybe I have like 5 really interesting ideas a year. Does that mean I'm only going to post 5 times a year? No, like I also think I have decent ideas, fine ideas, good ideas. And just by getting them out into the world, it creates interesting conversation as well. And so I think people just have to be realistic. And I think also what happens is people look at someone like a Nikita Beer or a Sam Parr, and they see their content and they're like, this person just seems to be like, having banger after banger. One, they don't realize a lot of people do delete posts after it's not performing for a period of time. And the second is that these people have just been doing it for a long time. And like, it's the Mr. Beast thing. Like, you look at the guy after 13 years, of course he's going to look really good. Look at the stuff that he posted when he first started.
The biggest hurdle is like, do you care if you look stupid or not?
Exactly.
Like that is actually the biggest hurdle. It's ego. People are like, I'm unwilling to take any risk of looking stupid. And if you look at the people who are really successful, they're like, I literally don't care if I look stupid. Like, I know Sam Parr really well. Sam does not care if he looks stupid, right? Sam is literally just like, I am me, and I'm just gonna be me, and that's okay.
To be a successful entrepreneur, you have to have no shame. Like in the early days of the business, you would do anything humanly possible to get someone to be your customer or investor, and you got a shit ton of no's. So I don't know where this started, that you all of a sudden have shame around putting content on the internet.
Yeah. I think I always say like content is the one place where you can speed run failure, right? Because for the most part, most of what you put out in the early days will make you feel like everyone thinks you suck, because it's right there in front of you that no one's clicking the button to say they like it. And it's like really, it's hard not to just give up really quickly. But nearly every single great content creator I have met were not successful for the first, it took 4 or 5 years. It's really perseverance. It's really a grind. We had an incredible creator on, Jenny Hoyas, who's a YouTube creator, amazing at shorts. And she was like, hey, for 2 years, I just put content out just to understand the algorithm. I didn't even look at my view count. I didn't even look at my audience count. Like, that is the perseverance and the grind you have to commit to.
And to be honest on this point, people also just focus on the wrong things. Like, again, going back to my goal, if I want to be, say, the Lenny for marketing, all I care about is that Kipp and people like Kipp are getting value from my content. Right. And so this is something we've always done at StoryArb. But when I'm evaluating how I'm performing, I'm not looking at even my engagement rate, or I'm not looking at my follower growth on its own. I'm looking at, in a given month, when I look at my follower growth on Twitter or LinkedIn, what percentage of my followers are in my IFP or my market of one? So what percentage of my net new followers are Kipp or Kipp-like people? And when I'm looking at, for example, like Twitter, I posted this drop marketing thing today. Okay, it has, what is it at? It has 102 likes so far. I don't care about that. What I care about is there's 127 bookmarks so far, which means to me that this is referential content that clearly a marketer is going to want to visit later. So I think people just also focus on the wrong things. Like they focus on like the flashy LA shit and not like the, you know, grinding in Brooklyn shit.
Yeah.
Speaking like a true New Yorker, I love that, Alex. Okay, we're getting close to the show. We've covered a lot of ground. One last thing I want to kind of double down on that because it's related to the kind of the drop marketing topic is like people are often unwilling to just go and take known things in a different industry, market, whatever, and just transport them to their own industry, right? Like whether that be media formats, whether that be types of marketing, doesn't matter. Like, do you have any other examples, Alex, where you just do that? Because like I do it all the time where I'm just like, oh, I think this thing Netflix is doing great. I'm just going to rip it off and like use it in our marketing.
All the time. Like, I think, so this goes to a broader conversation, which to me, like I have been, you know, pounding the drum forever on how the value of curation and like and stealing and focusing people on the actual good shit only gets more valuable as the search cost on the internet goes up. Additionally, to me, taste gets more and more valuable. Like being a good tastemaker on the internet is like an incredibly valuable skill on its own. And so I'll just give you two examples. I have this short form series that I've done now for the last, literally since the pandemic started, 60 Second Startup, right? Which is where I just like do short form interviews with founders in Madison Square Park in New York. That is not a new idea. I literally one day, I was taking a dump and I was literally thinking to myself, Shark Tank still has an unbelievable audience on linear TV. Why has a Shark Tank not been created for the digital pipes of the internet? Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like all that exists is like Shark Tank episodes have been clipped and put on YouTube, but that's it. At the same time, I was like, okay, how do I take the essence of Shark Tank and apply it to a format that like our generation or people who are consuming content on IG Reels or YouTube Shorts or TikTok makes sense to them? One of the most classic formats is man on the street style interviews. Like it is just proven that man on the street style interviews, because they feel casual and authentic, generally perform better than if you were like in a studio. So it's like, why don't I just combine a Shark Tank style startup pitch with a man on the street? So I go to a park in New York and I do it, and that's it. And like, it was the combination of a format that the current audience is used to, because my whole thing is how do you change behavior of a consumer as little as possible, but bringing in a media format that has existed forever or for a long time that just hasn't adapted to our generation. By the way, I think there's an opportunity to do this with basically, you go to any TV network, but let's use the example of CNBC. You go to CNBC, you go to your TV right now and you look at all 24 hours of programming. You write down all of the shows that they have, who they serve and what the premise of the show is. And you ask yourself, is this being done on YouTube? Is this being done on TikTok? Is this being done on IG? There are so many ideas you can just steal from linear and bring to digital.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a good artist copy, great artists steal. Better artists make better. Like, you know what I mean? There's, you know, that is like where great ideas come from, is the inspiration from something someone's done and then just like tweaking it to figure out how to be different. Yeah.
Again, I just think of ourselves as disc jockeys. Like we have two records in front of us. We have two records in front of us that another artist made previously. And the way that I'm like scratching it and like going, what you, like that's like that's the value I'm adding to the audience. Otherwise they would just listen to the vinyl to start with.
Right. Kanye West has had a pretty incredible career, right? Like that's kind of what he's done.
Exactly.
Okay. This was, as always, a great conversation, Alex. I think we covered a ton of topics that are very relevant to our audience. I think the audience of one was far and away just the most actionable piece of information, but you also gave folks a ton of things that they could go and take away, like drop marketing. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for joining us on Marketing
Thanks for
Instagram.
having me, guys. Always good to chat.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot. Grow better.